This episode is brought to you by Groove Washer, the best record cleaners and protective sleeves for your vinyl collection. Ask for the Groove Washer from your local shop or go to groovewasher.com. Discount code VinylGuide10. And now, on with the show.
Well, hot damn, everyone. Welcome to episode 350 of the Vinyl Guide. Wow, bit of a landmark. I'm not sure why that number 350 resonates so much with me, but it do. And to mark this occasion, we have a very special guest, Mr. Tom Hazelmyer, head honcho of Amphetamine Reptile Records, discussing all sorts of rare vinyl he's been involved with, from the hand carving of the HazeXXL releases, the limited runs of 100 units or less, the highly collectible art vinyl he develops for bands like Melvins, Cows, Unsane, and more, and his general thoughts on vinyl, the production, and even a glimpse into the future of Amphetamine Reptile. Now, those of you unfamiliar with his work, Tom combines his hand-carved linocut artwork to form the covers and artwork of records of really a handful of bands he chooses to work with. Tom is a no BS guy, and for me, any record that Tom is involved with is worth giving some serious time to. Many of the covers he makes are hand silk screened. The vinyl is specially manufactured. It's not a cheap process, quite time consuming indeed, and there are limited copies that are highly sought after by an army of record nerds, myself included. Now, to see Tom's work, go to shoxop.com, shoxop.com, but don't expect to see much vinyl for sale. His runs generally sell out within minutes of going on sale. You're best to follow Amphetamine Reptile on Facebook and Instagram, and when you see them announce a sale date and time for a record, put it in your calendar immediately and show up on time. They go quick. Now, astute listeners to this show will note that we have had Tom on the show before, episode 220, and there we cover a lot of high-level questions about Amphetamine Reptile and the vinyl manufacturing process. However, today in this conversation, we go way in depth. The collectible Melvins Endless Residency box set, the Hooray for Me HazeXXL record, the special mispressing and save of a senile animal, the Melvins War Pussy EP and sticker, and of course the new Mr. Fly's Cancel Culture Club record, which Tom not only manufactured, but also plays on. So today we cover a lot of that, and we have lots more at patreon.com/vinylguide. Yes, there is an extended version of this interview up there. Another 20 minutes or so, many more factoids, many laughing moments from one of the most real, one of the most authentic and no bullshit guys in the music industry, Mr. Tom Hazelmyer. So if you want to hear more, you enjoy this interview, head up to patreon.com/vinylguide. Help support this show. We're always putting extended interviews up there, and today is no exception. Patreon.com/vinylguide. There you get to hear the rest of the show. And of course, if you like this conversation, make sure to check out other episodes of the Vinyl Guide, including episode 349 with AmRep recording artist Mr. Flies, episode 338 with FIFA Riccobono from Albert Productions talking about the early days of AC/DC, grunge guru Jack Endino was on the show, episode 334, Mackie Osborne talking about the design of Tool's Fear Inoculum package and various Melvins records, episode 330, Ambrose Kenny Smith of King Gizzard, episode 325, John Dwyer of the OCs and Castleface Records, episode 331, and lots more. Subscribe to the Vinyl Guide in your podcast app, scroll, and enjoy. All right, let's get on with it. Let's get on the horn with HazeXXL himself, Mr. Tom Hazelmyer. Tom, last time you were on the show was, I think, April of 2020, start of the pandemic, prior to the whole George Floyd event. So how have things been for you and yours over the past few years?
Bizarre, for as the same as with everyone else. The supply chain shit that came in the wake of the clusterfuck that was all of our government's reaction to this. That's the part that's maddening, the 10-month turnaround for vinyl, if you're lucky. Mm-hmm. all the delays on different things, and Australia decides we're not taking packages from America. England's going to do, just like this ongoing. It's like if it wasn't bad enough, everyone seems to be throwing logs onto the fire. New Zealand decided to stop all packages from America. That was pretty recent, and you're like, why? Is there one iota of there was a whole country completely infested with COVID because of packages? I mean, I'm no fucking scientist, but I'm going to put some money down saying that's not the case.
Is that still the case? Like there are a lot of countries that don't accept. Is Australia accepting packages finally?
It's the funny part is the most crazy shit seems to be all the former Commonwealth.
Oh, okay.
Countries that have overreacted, gone. It's just like kind of a pattern. Canada's done a lot of stuff too. New Zealand, Australia. I would even throw the States into that mix.
I know from a logistics perspective, everyone's pretty much aware of the delay for records, but it seems that you've still had a steady supply, probably not as many as you want, and certainly not as many as we want or possibly you plan for, but there still seems to have been a consistent dotting of releases.
I think the problem was that there was this, we were just pumping stuff into the pipeline, and then I literally had just put 3 projects in and was told by the pressing plant, oh, by the way, it's going to be 10 months before you get those back. And I'm like, well, what? 10 months? Are you fucking kidding me? And that delay, I mean, we filled some holes in there too. Like luckily Buzz had other projects going, like reissuing not Houdini, Lysol. I'm not supposed to say that. But Lysol and
it's already out. Why can't you say it?
I know.
I'm
saying I'm not supposed to say the word Lysol in relation to
Oh, okay, yeah.
Where Megadeth Corporation will come a knocking.
I hear the jackboots at my door right now. They want this record.
Exactly.
So, in terms of being in Minneapolis, and when I heard about the riots and everything, I'm not familiar with Minneapolis. I hopped on Google Maps and I looked. Okay, the riots are here. Where's Grumpy's? It got pretty close. Were there some pretty scary moments for you guys?
I mean, it was kind of citywide as far as there was flare. I mean, there was a few key spots where it was the most intense, and that stuff ran up and down streets, burning pretty much everything down in its wake in some neighborhoods. Right where our offices are is in a neighborhood that was actually luckily very quiet. There was kind of some gangs that were hitting were above a bar, and bars were kind of on the short list of things that were getting hit. So I got to spend a few nights in the offices with my not politically correct to say so, but my AR-15 sitting there just going, well, you can burn down that one or that one, but I'm not, it's never a good thing when your city's on fire, doesn't matter what your politics are. It's fucking terrifying because it's like there's no cops. They waited a week or so before they called up the National Guard, and you're like, don't you guys have a job to stop this shit from? Oh, that's right. You negated that job by being fucking pricks. But anyhow, it was what it was.
Okay.
I mean, I could go on for a fucking hour and a half on shit no one wants to hear about it anymore, myself included.
But okay, all your interests, everything was okay. Now, Grumpy's was shut down for the pandemic for a big chunk of it. There wasn't much vinyl production. How did you spend your hours? Like, what did you then kind of refill that time with?
I was working on a lot of releases. That's why during the height of the pandemic, it was kind of awesome. The turnaround time for getting releases done was that. I mean, it was down to 6 weeks from sending off parts and getting vinyl back from Czechoslovakia. It was incredible. And I had nothing but time to sit there and finish up all the graphics and sit at home, would finish the graphics, ship those off to Jay, who runs Boxy Mouse, that does my silkscreen printing. His shop is actually in his basement. So it was just kind of funny. We were all isolated, but we were cranking on I'd stuff all the records at home, haul them into the office. Rob would show up at a different time, pack all the orders. It was kind of this, what does the CIA call that? Compartmentalized.
Okay.
No one was involved with each other doing stuff. So we kind of kept busy that way, and which was fine. And Buzz luckily had a bunch of stuff for the Melvins, ready to go prior to that. So we just kind of cranked on it.
Well, that doesn't surprise me so much. That you had that first mover advantage because you operate high speed, low drag, and you're able to make decisions very quickly. Whereas a larger label, even a medium-sized label, they have a few people they want to coordinate, and maybe they haven't gone through some of the rough times in the past to be able to know that actually a downturn can be an opportunity if you know how to work it.
Yeah, I mean, when AmRep was birthed, it was during a recession. It's kind of we do better in shitty times. I always have. Don't ask me why. I mean, it's the king rat theory, I guess. But no, it's kind of weird. But I've been really enjoying running the way stuff has been going the past 10 years now because of exactly what you said. Like, I stripped out all the shit the reason I quit doing releases 20 years, or God, it's probably coming up on 20 years ago. Like, I had kind of shuttered AmRep for a while, and the reason being was like it was a fucking job, and that wasn't my intent ever. I mean, I love to be able to make my living off of it, but it was a very passionate thing for me. And when it got to the point where you're worried about what's going on with college radio, where did that one chart? Did we talk to that promotion? Did we do the thing? I gotta have the meeting with the distributor and all this shit that has nothing to do with music or doing the graphics or the stuff I love. And I kind of figured out a way to do it. That's just the shit I like. I like the creation part of it. I love the music. I love the putting together the cover and having it all come together. I enjoy the assembly, the grunt work of sitting there and stuffing 600 records. I enjoy that. Like I said, what I didn't enjoy 20 years ago was the meetings and the bullshit and the hirings and the firings and the crap you had to get done on a day-to-day basis and paying the bills and all that shit. So this way we've got it down to, and one of the reasons we do like these really small runs is to, if anyone's on my office at work, this is my office at home, but my office at work is far worse than the clutter you see here. We just don't have the room. There's no warehousing. There's no, so it's like, it's got to be gone. It's got to be done. I can't sit around and wait for that straggling guy that's going to take 6 months to figure out it's out and want to get it. I'm sorry. I'm not there for you, bud. I'm not there. It's like cleared out and I'm on to the next thing. And I enjoy that. And it's like that. I wouldn't be doing this if I couldn't do it this way in a manner that is, expedient, get it done. Cause like you said, where you'll see some labels take 8 months to get a release out from the time the band hands off the finished product. Like, here's this. And I'm always, even back in the day when we were doing it right, I still would scratch my head and like, what the fuck are you lollygagging about? Just get her done, fucking move it, Yeah. But this method, I love it. It's just like, there's something new and I get the buzz, the jolt, the high more frequently than when you're only able to crank out something 4 releases a year versus being able to do 20. So yeah, that's part of the shtick.
Are you constantly working on new linocut artwork? Like, I know there's a lot that we see through the records and some of the posters. Do you have a lot of linocut work that never gets made public?
It goes back and forth. There's times where there's a mountain of shit you don't see, and there's times where you'll see everything I've done for 3 months, every fucking piece, because it's like literally the rest of life is keeping you tied up, and it's like, all right, I got to sit down and get a cover done for this project. During that period of like when life is going along that way, you're seeing the vast majority of stuff. You don't see the fuck ups. Sometimes I'll still even manage to figure out how to incorporate a fuck up into something else later.
Like, what's a fuck up that we may have seen that we didn't know was a fuck up?
Oh, I don't have a copy here because we're not finished with it yet. But the new Mr. Flies record, I did a complete carve. It's like one of those things in your head. It looks great, and this happens. It's like with music, where it's like, wow, that hook sounds really good in my head. And then once you get to the point of having it with the band, you're like, yeah, this is kind of weak. Trash it. Those are the worst when you go all the way through to completion, like this intensive carve, big, 12 by 12 inches, pretty detailed, get it done. And then literally when you pull the paper off the print, you go, well, this sucks. It's not what literally excited up to that moment of flipping the paper on and going, didn't work. I mean, there's a lot of factors involved there, and I don't want to bore people with the minutia, but it's like you're doing it in reverse and in negative. So I don't have the mind to completely know what my end product is going to look like. There's a lot of guesswork. A lot of times you'll get caught in a trap where the balance looks perfect to me. Well, now you flipped it. When you pull that print off, it's front, and the balance can just completely go wonky like that.
Right.
And I didn't see it coming, despite doing it for 12 years intensely. There's only so far you can go, knowing how something's going to come out. So anyhow, the Mr. Flies one, I finished it, and I was just like instantly knew this is not it, but ended up pulling parts of that image to reuse on the back cover. I just happened to have this carve that I had done as a joke for Buzz, where we were working on a project, and I just had carved this giant penis. And it's like, put it on the computer, made the cover with this giant cock on it. Sent it to him and said, what do you think of this one? And he's like, yeah, that's great. That deadpan way that Buzz can do to tell you you're fucked. So it was just funny, but I was sitting there and I actually liked the carve. And then I was like, well, this works with Cancel Culture Club, because the biggest thing to get anyone canceled is a fucking penis. That's number one. What's the number one cancellation? You had a penis and you used it wrong. You fucked up somehow with your, whether it affected your brain and what you said or the actual usage of your penis. So I just thought it was kind of apropos and utilized the previous image that was like I said, a can, but kind of collaging the two, because I've done that in the past with a lot of collaging with finished prints. It just kind of, it worked, then it was just like, so, that last second save, the buzzer hits and you throw the ball, the whole basketball court, and you net it, one of those kind of deals. So
throughout the process, while you're making a linocut, do you use digital tools to kind of give you an idea of what it may look like? Because with a phone and maybe like almost a Photoshop type app, you can actually do the reverse and kind of see how it's going.
I've always found that that's going to take just as much time. Okay. Like I remember one of the first times I was posting stuff from doing linocut, somebody's like, what filters that makes it look like a linocut? It was like, fucking linocut? I don't know. A little bit insofar as like the on my home computer there is what's the name of that program? The photo booth on Apple.
Yeah.
And like I'll be sitting there working on something. This is just like very early sketching, but like I'll have it, and let's say if I've drawn it in reverse, I'll take a picture, and then it flips it around so I can kind of, the thing I was talking about with balance and shit, kind of see if something's going wonky. So I'll use that to do that. I'm usually working in front of my computer and have photo sourced, online, Google searching, monkey butts. Do an extensive search on monkey butts. I wonder how many lists this got me on. And then, all some favorites, and then doing, drawing based on the visual, that type of thing. It's on the screen. So I've got a reference type of thing. Common shit for most people doing, drawings and paintings. There's always references, whether it's photo or whatever. That's the new photos.
I like the way the light is hitting this monkey butt.
This monkey butt is glistening just perfectly.
But the colors on this other one are more to my favor. Perhaps I can combine them.
I can tell this is a sub-Saharan baboon ass. The way the sun glistening and coming down.
So with the HazeXXL and factory pressing numbers have always seemed to be around 200 to 300. Are you seeing that as kind of holding steady? Do you think those are going higher, lower? Kind of what do you see the trend?
The which number? The number of the pressing size, or
yeah, the pressing size.
I think it's pretty much between 300 to 500.
Okay.
We haven't done. I think we just did 600 on the new Melvins. The Melvins will be the high end of stuff just because their demand is obviously more substantial. It depends on the project, the timing of it, how it's all coming together. Some of them, it just wanted to like, there's practical reasons. Like the recent Melvins 10-inch we did, the Lord of the Flies, but it was a 10-inch and two of the songs were on the upcoming album. So it's just practical to go smaller with that and just to blow it out and move on, because it's kind of almost a promotional piece. Like, you're in the same age bracket as me. You remember like the promotional 12-inch that would come out from some new album kind of thing. I kind of looked at them like that, and then the album we're actually on the new Melvin's album doing a full boat factory edition, as well as the art edition with a completely different sleeve that Mackie did. So that'll be a big run. But I mean, on the art ones, it's just the practicality too of the numbers of what we can handle. Anything past 500-600, it gets the system starts, our little tiny system starts to break down. It's just like it takes extra time to stuff them, to store them. Anyone trying to crank out 400 to 600 orders online quickly realizes like that's about the peak you can go,
Yeah, you get to the point of diminishing return after that.
It's also then you have to bring on people to help you, and then it just gets more complicated. And that's, like I said before, that's the shit I'm trying to avoid. I just want to keep it within what we can handle.
Right. And there doesn't seem to be many 45s in recent years. Any insight as to why that is?
It was a thing where the 45, from what I can tell, and someone I'm sure will step up and correct me because I'm always wrong. It seemed to be a generational thing. I think Gen X we were the last of the line to completely love the 45. All the millennials I've talked to, most of the millennials just don't get it. They're like, what? I don't understand, because they didn't come up in that time of like how expensive vinyl was for us as a kid, when it was like $5-6 for an album and a single was $1. Well, I mean, $6 was 3 hours fucking pay. So you thought twice about what album you were going to get, versus a single was $1. So it's like, well, I'm not really familiar with this, band X here. I'm going to try buy the single. And that the 7-inch was such an entree for us. I think the boomers looked at it even on a different plane than Gen X did. I know from my punk rock years, like singles were a little more expensive because I was buying a lot of English imports. In my teen years, the whole first wave of English punk rock and the graphics that came with those things too, fucking amazing. But it was a different, thing where it's like, I don't know this band. I want to, I'm going to save my bucks and check it out. So it had a special place. Also, up and coming bands, like on a local level, especially through the hardcore years, as people well know, that whole thing was all 7-inches. That was bucks. Your average Negative Approach or Husker Du or couldn't afford to put out a full LP. It was always usually self-funded or a small little cabal of mutants coming together and trying to figure out how to get this done. Yeah. Full LP just wasn't in the works for a couple of reasons. Studio time, which was hideously expensive as well. I mean, recording costs it's like nothing now. I mean, that was a big barrier to getting anything done. Was even the shittiest basement studio still was costing you an arm and a leg back in the day.
Even just the quality of the music, though. As a band, you can get together and you could put together a few tunes pretty quick and be very proud of them and be ready to go.
Yeah.
And then committing to something and a whole nother 20-30 minutes on top of that is
and I'm sure a lot of those bands too that have, that 1977 punk rock band from Houston, the Fuck Nuts, everyone's trying to get that Fuck Nuts 7-inch and it's like $7,000 now. It was like, if you actually saw their whole set, back in 77. You wouldn't want that fuck nut single. But you're right. They cherry picked their two best tracks and put out this amazing blistering 7-inch. It was like a lot of self-editing back then, which worked, But for me too, it's like I love the punk rock stuff. And then when hardcore came along, that was almost entirely a 7-inch medium initially. Everything I bought was on 7-inch. So it has a special place. But anyhow, to back up why I'm not doing it, first off, it's not much cheaper to do a 7-inch now than any of the other formats. 25 years ago, it was substantially cheaper. Now it's literally almost the same price as doing a 10-inch or 12-inch. So it's like if I'm limited, if I only have 3 tracks, I'd rather go 10-inch or 12-inch for quality. It's like the spacing for the grooves, and you get that's helps the sound quality that you're going to get. And like I said too, it's that thing where there's a big chunk of the audience doesn't appreciate the format. They don't get it. It's like there's no nostalgic appeal to them. There's no comprehending the depth of that format in the same way. I think I've seen it. Like I've seen forums online where people are talking about it, and to the person that the younger set is just like, I don't get it. You only get 2 songs, and it's like this little thing, and I don't know. Kind of attitude towards it. And for me, it was that combined with the expense being just as high as the other things we're doing. Like for me, silk screening a sleeve, whether it's a 7-inch or a 12-inch, the price isn't that different. You got to do 2 sides. You're going to get charged the same thing, but there's a limitation on what people are willing to pay for a 7-inch versus, a 12-inch, whether it's same amount of material, there's like a barrier there. So like we were talking about this it's like you said, it has been a few years, and I remember just deciding like I don't want to bother with it. I love them, but they also don't sell as well. There's like, if you made 400 or 500 of them, there will be 30 or 40 of them sitting there later, kind of like what the hell, that's never happened with the 10-inch kind of thing.
Right. So look, I want to spend some time talking about Mr. Flies, but before we do that, let me kind of go through some of the Haze records with some specific questions. Now, there's going to be some nerdy stuff here, so if you don't remember, that's all right. So I finally got my hands on an Endless Residency box set.
You see it back there.
Yeah, you see it right there. Yeah,
right there.
You know how much that is to ship to Australia, but I've
Jesus, probably more than the record.
I finally got one. Tell me the story of this, because there's only 100 made. What was the plan? And is this the sort of project you'd embark upon again?
We'll be back after these messages.
Hey, record nerds, don't forget to clean your records with the very best and safest record cleaner, the Groove Washer. Make your records look and sound their very best and store them with confidence using the new Groove Washer Groove Guard record sleeves. You gotta try this out. It makes a huge difference to the quality of your vinyl experience. Ask for the Groove Washer by name at your local record store and accept no substitutes. Or head over to groovewasher.com and use discount code VinylGuide10.
All hail the Groove Washer.
That's groovewasher.com, discount code VinylGuide10.
Now we return to the program, already in progress.
No limits.
So I finally got my hands on an Endless Residency box set. Tell me the story of this, because there's only 100 made. What was the plan? And is this the sort of project you'd embark upon again?
No. The answer is no. No, it's actually a lot of fun. I don't have a memory for detail. But I remember Buzz was put together the whole thing, and he was going to do, I think he was running it through Europe.
Rock is dead.
Yes, Rock is Dead. Jochen. And said like we should do an American version. We were talking, bouncing it around, and he said, well, Jochen can get us like vinyl, like a special color vinyl, and that's why it was limited to 100. It's like because it was 17 albums in that set or something, 89 albums in that box. What is there, like 120 albums in there? I think there's
something like that. 4,000. Yes,
4,000 albums in there. So it was just like we had this plan where it was like there was something else going on in Austin, but I'm like, let's go down to Billy. At the time, it was Billy from Obsolete Industries was doing all my printing. and he had a big shop. So I was like, we'll go. Me and Buzz literally met up. I drove down with all the boxes because the boxes were made in Wisconsin. Had those loaded in the truck. Went down to Texas. Buzz flew in, and we spent a week printing, like with Billy, printing all the stuff. And then there's all the hand done art and the stamps and the this and the stuff. You know, we literally physically made those records. Buzz was there too. It was me, Buzz, and Billy from scratch to, you know, Buzz was helping me glue prints into there, you know, the tip in prints and all that kind of shit. So I just remember that part of it was a lot of fun. And I had at the time I had a Ford Excursion, which was, they probably have topped it since then, but back then was the biggest sport, you know, SUV that Ford made. It had a fucking V10 engine, which was amazing. You have this huge truck and you could like take off and beat Corvettes from the stop. But I had that thing was packed. There was 3 of us driving back. My brother and my niece were with me because they had come down while we were there doing it to visit. And they drove home with me up to Minneapolis. It was about a 20-hour drive. And we literally, the entire truck was records. Every one of those sets was in the truck. And it packed the entire truck aside from the 2 front seats and 1 back seat. The entire thing it was crazy. I just remember that, like going, man, that would suck if we rolled the truck, you know, right about now. But it was a undertaking. It's one of those things that seat of the pants. Like, let's figure this out as we go, and you know, just cranked on a bunch of the art at the same time, and it was a lot of fun. But like I said, it was also a shit ton of work. I mean, you think it's like it's 100 units. How bad, you know? It's like, but when you see there's like, is it 4 gatefolds in there? I think there's 4.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's a total of not 8 records, 9, and one of them has an etching, or several of them have etchings on them.
I actually figured out how to silk screen onto the vinyl. Wasn't there the skull? Did we do that on that one? Yeah, it wasn't etching; it was silk screened onto the.
Is it? Okay. I think I've got a Seahorse that has some etching.
Those guys, I think, did do a record that has some etching on it.
Yeah,
but that was a great project. Just one of those things where it's like, I suppose I should probably slow down and figure out ways of doing some more things like that. You know, kind of got into a pattern, which I'm enjoying, so which is why I'm not jumping up and down to change it. But kind of get back a little bit more to the art side of it, as far as like making things that aren't necessarily a standardized record. You don't want to get too crazy with that. You know, it's like, well, it's a shoe with a, you know, ding and conceptually it was genius, but the packaging was a little difficult.
How difficult was it to ship those? Because that probably had a whole nother side of logistical
not actually bad. It was just a matter of there's a, you know, that was, thank you, Uline. You know what I mean? It's like the Uline catalog where you know those catalogs that are like that thick, and they send them to you like 14 a day, and just like, you know, go, well, we need a box that's, you know, 16 by 16 by, you know, there it is, you know, order 100 of them. That part was, you know, the hardest part about that was just making sure that they were for the price. You know, they had to show up in one piece. Right. And there was no slop, so there wasn't, you know, a stack of units back there. If one gets, you know, if one shows up broke, we'll just get them one of those. It's like, no, they're getting their money back and we're fucked. So it's like, you know, making sure they're super well packed and all that kind of stuff.
So recently you also had this Sugar Daddy 45. Tell us the story of that.
That was, we were gearing up to do the whole Sugar Daddy 12-inch series, which was 12. Was it 12 in the end? I think it was 12 inches. Mm-hmm. That would have the Melvins on one side and bands they loved in the past, present, you know, whether the band was broken up or long gone or still cranking, you know, on split 12-inch with them. And somehow it got messed up with the pressing plant I was using at the time. And I got a call, they're here. And I'm like, okay. And I go down to pick them up, and there was boxes of 7 inches. And I've already got set 12-inch sleeves. I've got the 12-inch graphics ready to go. And I'm like, didn't order 7 inches here, buds. And they're like, what? Looking through all the, you know, everyone's going through their emails and their notes, and they're like, oh shit. And I was just like, I can't use them. And so they just, they were supposed to destroy them. And I went on and made the 12 inches, you know, we got a new order and moved on and did the whole series. But then that was, God, 10 years ago or better. I can't, I'm horrible at dates as to when shit happened. And then I'm still working with that same company. They press do all my CD work. I've since shifted vinyl elsewhere, but I don't do vinyl with them anymore, but I still use those guys for CDs. They're local, Noiseland in town here. They're really good people. And I was down there picking up some CDs as a matter of fact. And he's just like, by the way, we are cleaning out the warehouse and found this, box. I think it was like a box of 150 or in the end, it came, was it 150? This is how bad I am. This was just months ago or 6 months ago. I don't know how many it was. I love when people walk up to me at a show or something like that and go, with that first today's day 7-inch, how many copies in green vinyl and was there a yellow variant? I'm like, fuck, I don't know. You want to know how much stock got put into that? I was sitting in my office. Someone goes, Tom, should we do a colored vinyl? Yeah, what color? Blue. Anyhow, blah, 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 blah. That's how much thought got put into it back then. We were like, fucking, let's go, get this on, get that. And people think it's like this, monumentous, like there's a board meeting, big table, and everyone's sitting there going, what color should it be? How many should we make 200? And it's not. So I was like, and also I don't have the memory to remember, even if it was that monumentous meeting, it'd been just like, gone. Okay, we're done. We got it decided. Move on and clear the brain out. It's gone. So I don't remember if that was like 150, but anyhow, he says like, I got this box of these, and that was during that was in the middle of the 10-month delay, the unannounced, by the way, all your projects you just put in are going to take 10 months. So I've got this 10-month gap sitting here with nothing coming out. No, and all of a sudden he offers these 150 singles. Like, well, I will make it, And like I said, Buzz had a couple things that he had been working on before that were just coming out during then, like the Eggnog reissue and the Lysol reissue. What else was there? He handed me a couple of those, which was kind of like lifesavers, just to be able to do. I think both of those we did 200 of each, but it was like a whole sleeve, and it was kind of filled the void in between. That 10-month gap was filled up by, cranking on a couple projects like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was the Sugar Daddy one, was just like small, moldering off in the corner of a warehouse. So
yeah, that may be the last 45 that AmRep puts out.
Possibly. I mean, I'll never say never. I know that much. Mm-hmm. There's one thing I know, never say never. But yeah, I mean, there's probably, so at some point there's going to be like a cool idea that, necessitates doing 7 inches, or that could make it fun. I mean, a lot of people got really excited that Discord box that they did last year. Those came out finally last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
7-inch box set. I mean,
but those weren't all silk screened and they already had the art for years and years. They had to do the cleanup. So
I love that Discord story of I can't somewhere over the past 40 fucking years, somewhere there's an interview with Ian talking about how they were trying to figure out how to do 7-inch sleeves. And they literally took one of their favorite English records and peeled it apart, and then figured out that there was these flaps and glue on the flaps. So they sat there and cut out, 500 7-inches sleeves, and then folded the flaps, not knowing it was a machine at a factory in England that made these sleeves, and their hand, putting the glue. I wasn't that, I was just like, I'm going to go with the folded paper method when I was first starting out. It's like, but even that was a pain in the ass. I had to drive I was stationed on a base about an hour and a half north of Seattle, and I had to drive down to Seattle to get 11 by 17 paper to bring it up to my printer so that they could print.
You didn't have the paper. Okay.
Because 11 by 17 paper, that's one, that thing. I didn't, never thought we'd get to that place where you're telling the kids, I had to walk uphill both ways to school for 17 miles. But it was that kind of shit where it's like you couldn't just jump online and boom, have paper there in 24 hours. It was like I had to sit with the phone book at the library, looking up paper distributors in Seattle, find one who would actually answer my question, drive to the warehouse district in Seattle, find this, with no mapping system. Like you're literally by the seat of your pants. Like I think he said it was on Johnson. And to get, one packet of 500 sheets of 11 by 17 cardstock, because that was the catch. I wanted it on cardstock. I was going to be fancy. It wasn't just paper. It had to be on cardstock. Why? and just shit like that. Doing color separations on the same 11 by 17 paper just by eyeballing shit, like literally gluing what was going to print in red with what was going to print in black, and then just kind of like, oh, this should work. Like holding it up to a light, kind of vaguely seeing where they were. I remember one of the first jobs I did that way. I brought it to the local printer. This is in Whidbey Island, small town up in Washington. The one printer in town. And I was like, I want this to be two color. I want to do red and black. And he's just like, he goes, that you do the color steps like this? Yeah. This ain't going to fucking work, kid. And I was just like, well, just try it. Just do it. I'll take responsibility. You just do it however it comes out. When I came to get him, he goes, I'm fucking shocked. This actually came out really good. Like all the registration was perfect because I had like coloration inside of letters and stuff.
Yeah.
But I, 17 hours of cutting, pasting and making sure by hand. So that was another thing too, where it's like there's certain designers and there's a certain kind of Luddite mentality that the old ways are best. And it's like, man, when the computer came along and I could typeset on a computer versus the rub off lettering, the Electroset that we all had to use for years to make anything look, slightly professional. When I finally got, access to a computer where I could just like type what I want and print it out and then cut it up and paste it onto a layout. But it was still like this, like, oh, this is genius. I've just saved myself a day's worth of work. Then fast forward 7-8 years from there, and it's like literally now there's no paper, there's no film. It's literally just all done on the computer and sent off. And then they're still spitting out film from the computer files. And the film goes to the printing plant. And then I found out recently, the whole cache of all the AmRep LP films. And I started calling around and making some calls and asking people. I put a thing out online like, hey, anyone know of a place I can get this shit shot so I can get it back to digital from the original file so I can, and everyone's like, nope, that film doesn't age the same. So you have 4 sheets, 4 color process. You got your cyan, magenta, yellow, black plates, but all the film shrinks and warps differently. So now there's no registration. It's like, I've got this pile of film and nobody uses film anymore. So it's like, there's nowhere to, even if that didn't happen to it, I was just initially trying to find somebody who could scan the films in, and then I would reassemble the 4 color process shit and make, have, really clean duplicates of the LP sleeves. Because when we're on occasions where we are reissuing old stuff, it's a fucking nightmare. We have to scan in, find as good a copy as we can, scan that art in off the original copy. And it's really hard because like the old printing doesn't scan well. The dot matrix makes for like moire patterns and fucks it up. So you got to go in there and clean that up. And it's a really arduous pain in the ass, to get it done and done right. And of course, no one's got a budget for it. It's like, you don't want to spend $3,000 to get so it's like, it's a pain, but
most of the reissues I see you coming out with are with your new art anyway. The Unsane and cows, and it's a refresh.
I mean, it kind of makes it fun for me because it's like just we did a ways back. We did a batch, reissued a batch, and we were involved in that exact process I'm talking about of like having to clean up all the stuff and get it back out there. And that wasn't fun. That was just like literally work. It's like I already did those graphics 30 years ago. I don't want to see them again. I'm over it. So that's for the reissuing stuff that kind of gives it a kick in the ass for me. It brings it, like I said before, brings it back to makes it interesting and fun again. And it's just like breathes a little bit of new life into it. Hopefully, I mean, it does for me. Hopefully, it does for the the other end of the.
Oh yeah. Well, look, speaking for myself, I enjoy seeing that, and it's an update, it's a refresh, it's a relook at it. Have you ever considered doing any Cosmic Psychos XXL refreshes?
No, I mean, I'm trying to think of the last time those guys were here. It's been a while. it's probably pushing 10 years, 10 years. I'm trying to think the last time those guys were in the States. But we had them at the bar, and yeah, they just never really asked. They seem to be kind of got their own thing going, put together over there. And there, without those guys too, there was always more cooks in the mix with the other labels and the labels they had in Australia. I was only licensing that stuff from Australia, so it doesn't originate with me. Like for stuff like the cows or that Insane record or certain things, there's no paperwork. You know what I mean? As long as the band is into it and lets me do it, I can fucking do it, and I don't got to answer to anybody. You get, I wanted to do I think it was the 30th anniversary of Strap It On, and now that's in the major label hands. And I talked to Paige, the band, and it's like, hey, we want to do this, Paige. Like, I want to kind of like revisit this, and let's do a 30th anniversary. And he's like, yep. He's like, I'm down. Let's do it. And then it gets turned over to the major label, and then I literally get a 19-page fucking document of what's my business plan for this release. How many units are you going to do? Bada bing, bada bada. And you're just like, fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. This is why you guys can't get anything fucking done. You're not goddamn Washington, D.C. You're a fucking record label. It's like, if you don't trust me, then you press them and give me the records and charge me whatever you want to do. But just do something other than fucking generate paperwork, you fucking turds. And it was just like that. That's what, that type of thing. You're just like, I can't deal with this.
You get a lot of projects that stop at that level, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I know better on certain things, not even to approach it. Then there's the other side of it, like when I did work with the Cherubs on Heroin Man, and that was Trans Syndicate down in Texas. From this is where it's like impossible for me. Like I talk about the memory thing, I'm spacing out his name that runs Trans Syndicate from the Butthole Surfers. I'm totally drawing a blank. Fucking great guy. But it was that thing where it's just like, he's on the same level as me. He's like, I shoot him a note like, hey, these guys want to do this. Is that okay? He's like, I don't care. Go ahead. Knock yourself out type of deal. And that was great because then I get to do it. And you know what I mean? Like there's no like spending weeks on paperwork. And then, the other thing with majors too, and they don't trust anybody because they're not trustworthy. Yeah. So they don't license stuff that easily. And I get it because it's like, if they just licensed it to Tom, Dick, and Harry on the street, they'd press 20,000 and tell them they did 10. You know what I mean? That kind of shit. So they got the checks and balances they have to have in place to do stuff. And I mean, that's why I didn't pursue going with it to Atlantic to do like Houdini and Stag and the Melvin stuff, like Third Man, but Third Man's more capable. They're tied up in that world. They speak the language, know the where all the landmines are,
Yeah.
They can get it done better than I can. So they're the ones who handled that. But I luckily, since, they also get the other side of things. So they were, with us, they were easy to deal with, where it's like, here, you could have these 200, boom, done. We don't give a shit. You go do your thing.
Yeah. The Houdini, Stag, Stoner Witch, Haze versions are perhaps some of the most collectible. Do you ever see those being reissued? There was no factory editions of those particular titles. It was all just the silkscreen XXL, yeah?
No, they did full Third Man factory run.
But not with your artwork. They weren't like the factory. Yeah. So one of the records that I've only seen online is the Melvin's Bride Screamed Murder Scream cover. If you recall that, it's just a woman screaming and just says Melvin's Bride Screamed Murder.
Okay, yeah.
I believe
like 10 of them.
10. Well, there's 10 orange, and as I understand, 1 green.
Yeah, that's that numbers I was telling you game before.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, you remembered them. No, credit. It's you.
I just remember it because I brought those on tour. Mm-hmm. I can't remember which tour it was, but I brought the ones I made, we were selling on tour, and I think they were like $100 a piece. Might have been $100 or $200 because there was only 10 of them, and it was its own cover and the whole 9 yards. And it's just one of those stories I love telling, where it's like I was running the merch booth, and I put that up there, and whenever I put one up, we'd sell it that night, And this guy, there's a long line, and I'm doing my best to get people going through the line. This guy comes up and he's standing there and he's looking at it, and I said, sorry to rush you, but there's a big line behind you. Let me know what you want. Let's get it going. he's like, oh, I'm debating on that. I said, I'll tell you what, just step aside and you can chew on it. You won't lose your place. And then if you decide you want to get it, next guy comes behind him and goes and puts down the $100. And I look at him and he just points at it. I'm like, sorry, dude. And the guy goes, oh man. But I'm like, there's capitalism for you.
Yeah. A valuable lesson was learned that day.
A lesson was learned that day, like, don't delay, just move, get it.
Yeah.
And the shitty grin on the dude's face when he slapped on the money, like he's like, I want that one, I want it. And then the dude just gave him that opening of like, and he said, oh, interception, touchdown.
So was that artwork created for any other purpose? I mean, to go through that much effort for what amounted to 10 records, was there a bigger plan for that artwork, for that cover?
We'll be back after these messages.
Psst. Well, hey everyone, it's Nate here. Rather than running our sponsor ads again, can I give a plug for our Patreon page here? Patreon.com/Vinyl Guide, where right now there is an extended interview and it's totally commercial free. And quite frankly, I'm sure you all know podcasts only really exist because of the support of the audience. And that's what I'm here to ask you for. Please consider supporting the show, $5 or $10 a month, whatever you can afford. Because if you're listening to this now, some into the episode, that's great. You're enjoying it. I'm glad you're enjoying it. For that, I would ask you to please consider supporting the show. Patreon.com/Vinyl Guide. It's super important. It's like a direct lifeline to us here. And it's a huge signal, and the support is so welcome and helps keep this podcast going. Each week I put extra stuff up there, extended interviews, and it's all ad-free, and it's early, and it's all that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you politely, please support the Vinyl Guide, patreon.com/Vinyl Guide. All right, that's it. Back to the show.
No limits.
One of the records that I've only seen online is the Melvin's Bride Screamed Murder Scream cover. If you recall that, it's just a woman screaming and just says Melvin's Bride Screamed Murder. Was that artwork created for any other purpose? I mean, to go through that much effort for what amounted to 10 records, was there a bigger plan for that artwork, for that cover?
No, that was like during a period where I'm cranking stuff out. So it's just like, to me, there's kind of a separation. I'm not thinking in terms of like, all right, I have to make money with it. You know what I mean? Like I'll just do something. And sometimes, like I said before, it'll just get tossed. There's a few things that got that far and never got used, just kind of shoved off to the side. There's sometimes where I'll make a handful of records and those get shoved off to the side and I just kind of forget about it. I did that recently because there's lots of times where I'm like, we're 6 months out, be talking about, let's do this show in Sioux Falls and we'll have a thing with a thing in an art show or something like that. And I'll start stashing stuff for that event. And then sometimes that event never happens. And I forget that the shit's sitting over there on the shelf. Only to be like 5 years later, like, where the fuck did these come from? What are these about? It's like, so yeah, that, and now my printer kind of makes it even, throws in a wrench in the works too, where he'll like decide to do like 20 copies of something in a different colorway while he's printing the sleeves. We're doing 3 variants, and then he's like, I think this will look cool in aqua, and then make 20 of them in aqua. And I'm like, yeah, it does look fucking cool in aqua, but now what am I going to do with the 25 sleeves?
Right. Well, you've got some things like test prints and APs. Like, what do you do? How do those get out there? Because you sell the numbered ones on ShockSop. But right. I never see the APs I see popping up, but I don't know how they get out in the wild.
Usually those are the type of thing and that'll be set aside for like going on tour, live events, shit like that. And the test prints, kind of the same thing. Those are like, there's usually less than 5 or 6 of those on and given that he'll give me that, are from that literal printing session for that sleeve, particular sleeve.
So when you do something like Lord of the Flies, you'll order, let's say, 200 in splatter. They deliver 208 or something like that. Yeah,
those 8 become artist proofs.
Got it. Okay, so those
are like actually, those are the slop. Literally.
Okay,
the exact opposite of what a real artist proof is, which is I would be down at the plants looking at, he would give me 8 copies and say, no, we must shift the magenta over to the left. That would be a true artist proof. I mean, it's just like, okay, we have 8 copies that, we said there's 200. It's kind of snaky to make more than 200. So, all right, we'll kind of end run that, gray area of there being 200. There's actually 208 because you're right. Lately, though, during the pandemic, now the pressing plants have been shorting me. Like I used to consistently get anywhere from, up to 10 extra copies on a run on a, like a splatter vinyl. We're going to make 200 splatter vinyl and I'd get 210, up to 210. Always varied, nothing consistent. Now it was consistently less than
194 or whatever.
It's like, it's like, I'm not going to call it an edition of 194, so I'm still calling it 200, but there ain't 200 out there. So
I always assumed those 8, that slop, that's what became the Mackie presses. Like those were the one-offs that they did.
No,
there.
any Mackie presses, and you'll notice most Mackie presses are done with Ipecac releases and Boner and other. So like when they just did the eggnog reissue, normally he would have gotten those 200 extras and Mackie would have done sleeves for him. But he threw them at me because he knew, that we could. I have the mechanism. Mackie doesn't have the mechanism to sell shit online.
Right.
She prints and she gives him the stuff, and most of the Mackie stuff goes for sale on tour because it's all in house. That gets loaded onto the van when it goes out the road with those guys. Versus me, where I'm set up to handle mail order and get orders out and have that efficiently handled. So, and it was during the those guys couldn't tour, and he wanted to they couldn't Mackie could make 200 eggnog sleeves, but what are you going to do with them? They're not touring.
Right.
It's like, ship them to Hayes. He can get them out. And, and that was in part what funded the Melvins for those 2 years too. It was like us cranking on stuff and, getting releases out and cranking out stuff.
Yeah. I always assumed there was also records that were flowing from you to Mackie for the artwork.
There's been a couple times where they'll ask for, 50 copies of something we're doing.
Yeah.
So that she can make an edition. She usually sticks with even, smaller editions than me. She'll do stuff in as low as 12 copies. Yeah. I did like, I think when I did the Third Man reissues for Houdini and stuff, I'm pretty sure our runs were like 175 and Mackie took 25 of those, something like that.
Okay. And that A Senile Animal reissue, that was another kind of COVID blessing where Ipecac had that screw up.
Like literally, because Buzz has been, he'll collect the stuff from Ipecac and Boner and there's another. I'm forgetting somebody in that mix that reissues some of the Melvin stuff that he still has a relationship with. And after a while, the practice space is flooded with vinyl. It's overrun, and that's what he was digging through. It's like that had just happened. The timing was just right on that, and he, it's like, yeah, shoot it out there, and because that was a smaller one, wasn't it? Didn't we do
76 and 20 something of those? Yeah,
it was like 100 total or something. Like that. It was a really small run, but that's what he sent me, and that was that was before the vinyl delays, but it was during COVID where it's just like, good, we'll do this too. I enjoy the shit out of that kind of stuff.
Finally, War Pussy, the 10-inch with the skull sticker. Were there any shipped without that sticker?
No.
Okay.
No, I wanted that. We're going back to the early conversation with Velvet Underground. I've always been amazed because now it's my entire life. That record came out shortly after I was born. But how many times I've seen that? Are you being a collector, you've seen that 1,000 times where you're in the shop and we want $600 for this and the sticker's gone or it's half shredded up. And I've always thought like, who the fuck had to peel that off? It's like, just couldn't let it be just like, I got to see what's underneath there. And I always thought that was like a really devious, brilliant move on Warhol's part, to literally have it printed something underneath it and then put the sticker on top of it. So it was kind of a homage to a Warhol kind of thing where it's like every one of those has a fucking sticker on it. And I saw online there was a few people that had to peel the sticker off to see what was underneath, because it was a completed image. It was Jane
Yeah.
Fonda's face. And that was one of the things too, is like the part of the sticker idea was like, well, I don't know if we can legally get away with showing Jane Fonda. It's a representation of her. It's a carve of her. It's in this gray area. We're not using a photo of Jane Fonda, but Lord knows there's always some fucking prick lawyer out there who'll get a hold of it and run with it, type of thing, or make your life a pain in the ass, even though it's 300 copies or whatever. So it's like,
she's still living and everything, so there is that chance.
It's just like, I don't want to fuck around, and it ended up being. I thought it was a cool. And for me, it was more the homage to Warhol and like putting the sticker over something. And that perverse thing of like, who's going to tear this off? Like instantly devalue your hard won collectible by going. And like I said, I saw a few people posting pictures like, well, this is what's underneath, and you can see where it tore the ink off of the. And you're just kind of going, you're that person. You're that person I've been wondering about for my entire life. There you are. Now I fucking see one in flesh.
The very first HazeXXL record, was that the Melvins Hooray for Me? The first time you did one of those linocut?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was that thing too, where I was doing stuff for this project I had done with Gay Witch Abortion, that I was playing with them and writing songs with them and stuff. But that was the first one with the Melvins, where it's like, all right, we're gonna do 100, and I got to make this. I was just getting into the lino cutting and really enjoying it, but it's like here's a way to make this, well past just a regular record. It's like a literal hand, printed thing. So yeah, that was the first one we did that way, and that was never to be done again that way, which was printing them all on paper and then gluing the paper onto the sleeve, which was a fucking nightmare. Absolutely, because it's newsprint too, and you've got this really limited window where the glue will soak through the paper and reactivate the ink that's dried. You know what I mean? Like you made this print on the paper and it dried for a few days, but now by putting the glue on the back of it, it's soaking through, and you've got this 27-second window to get it right and on the paper. Because if you touch it, the ink's going to smear and you've just destroyed the sleeve. God knows how many of those things got thrown out. So it was like this really arduous thing. And then you'll also, anyone who's ever tried to glue a big 12 by 12 inch piece of paper, it's not very easy to get it right, lined up, no bubbles, no ripples, that type of thing. So it was a learning experience. That's when I was like, and I got to figure out another way of doing this. That's why I went to silk screening, like make the art, scan it, and get the films ready, and let's silk screen this, because I'm not doing this 400 times. There's still times where I'll do it with the senile animal. You just brought that up, where I did do tip-in prints on the inside.
Oh, the walrus in the inside. Yeah.
Those are actual block prints, hand-done block prints. And I'll glue them, but that's, they're this big. It's a lot easier to deal with than trying to cover the entire surface and stuff. So.
And how did you sell those at that time? Did you have shocks up when you did that original?
That was strictly for a show. We had a big AmRep bash at Grumpy's. It was like a big parking lot show. It was the first. Well, that one was the first, pretty much kind of the first bash. We'd had a few big shows, but that was where it was like a 7-band bill, Boss Hog and Melvins and Helmet. Was Helmet on that one? I think Helmet was there. I can't recall the exact lineup. Today's a Day. It was all AmRep, but we called it it was the AmRep Bash, or the Grumpy's Bash, but it was the 25th anniversary of Amphetamine Reptile. And I only made 100 of those, and those were just for that show only. I don't think we ever did mail order on those. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we didn't. I think we got through most of those.
And I see you're still doing, or well, at least recent 4 or 5 years ago, a Dope Guns and Fucking compilation.
Yeah, kind of. I had a wild hair to fire that back up, because there was a bunch of bands I really liked. Mr. Flies and Whores, and snuck in some older things that I still love, like Lydia Lunch is still doing some amazing stuff. Like got her in there, doing that amazing Rocket from the Tombs cover, Pure Ubu cover of. Anyhow, So just kind of that was also for a bash. And I was like, well, this way we can get a bunch of those bands were actually playing the bash. And I was thinking about revitalizing, doing it as a 10-inch thing. And then just that whole, the reason it's like having kids where you have, the baby and you got the sleepless nights and the fucking puking on your shirt and the 2 a.m. changing the whole 9 yards. And it's a brutal, slog. And then about 2 years later, that's drifted away in your memory. It's gone. And you're like, wouldn't that be great to have a baby in the house again? I do that a lot on a lot of different things. Well, I had 3 kids. I did it 3 times with kids. But where you're just like trying to coordinate. In the old days, it was 4 bands. And with the 10-inch, I could do 6. And then it's just like I started to put together the next volume. And it just like derailed, as it does when you're trying to corral cats, which is trying to get 6 bands on the same page to do anything. It's a nightmare. So it was just kind of those things where it just kind of like I had a really good lineup going, and then it just kind of I don't even remember the specifics. So by not remembering the specifics, I will be dumb enough to revisit that problem.
Get some more puke on your shirt. So that was when you started working with Mr. Flies. Now with this Cancel Culture Club record, you're actually not just putting it out, but you're also playing on it. What do you kind of miss playing? Is that something you still do?
I don't miss playing at all. I enjoyed like the stuff I've been doing. Like he sent me that song, and that song is I think it's one of the best new things I've heard in fucking years by anybody in that kind of ilk, that genre, like kind of more of a noise-based thing. Breathing some new life into shit that needs new life, breathed into it. So it's a treat to get to do something like that. But playing in general for me, I'm just kind of, I love recording. I love creating music. But I don't like the whole slog of rehearsing and having to, the touring thing is just never was appealing to me in the first place. That's why I chose, it's like many years ago, there was the path. It's like, this is the way of the band. This is running the label. You can't do both effectively. And it's like, band's chucked. Fuck it. You're out of here. Done.
Yeah. But you still like picking up a guitar and playing in the comfort
and
of
writing
your house.
Stuff with people and like, especially like the stuff I've been doing lately with Gay Witch Abortion, which is like pretty heavily, improv kind of stuff. It's a fucking blast. I love that, but yeah, just the thought of that. Let's crunch the same set for 6 months and then go on the road for 4 and sleeping on floors. I'm just like, I'm too fat and old for shit.
I have a hard time sleeping in my own bed these days.
Exactly. I was just regaling the kids with some of the horror stories of the floors we've slept on back in the day, where you're just like, the party pad that's got like an inch of dried beer on the floor, and it's like, that's your corner. And did you bring a blanket or no? Tough nuts. See you in the morning, kind of thing.
I've been listening to the Mr. Flies record, and which I believe we'll have a link to shortly. There's going to be some vinyl copies available. Yes. Yeah.
Actually, end of it's looking like mid to late October is the last update I got from the pressing plant. This one's going to be amazing. It only took 6 months to get up.
So you're starting to see those times shrink.
Come in.
Okay. All right, Tom, thanks again. I'll let you feed those dogs.
They could
appreciate
die.
your time, man.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. I'll talk to you soon.
See you around. Cheers.
All right, bye.
Oh man, I can just talk to him all day. Mr. Hayes, XXL himself, Tom Hazelmyer. Make sure to follow Amphetamine Reptile on social media, Facebook and Instagram mainly. That's where they announce where and when the records will go on sale. And make sure you follow up on that. And by the way, if you enjoyed this interview, we've got an extended version at patreon.com/vinyl guide. Join us up there. Help support the show. You get a lot more of this interview with Tom Hazelmyer and tons more from the rest of the episodes. That's patreon.com/vinyl guide. That's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please share these episodes on your social media. Put them on Facebook, tweet them out on Twitter, put them on Instagram, TikTok, whatever you do, or roll up to some of these people you know with smartphones. They may not know how to use podcasting, especially record nerds. Show them how to get The Vinyl Guide on their podcast app. They will love you for it. They may even kiss you on the lips. So beware. That has been known to happen. No judgment, though. We can keep a secret if you can. But yeah, we do appreciate you helping spread the word of the Vinyl Guide podcast. And we'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, get out there and buy some records, people. Cheers.
That's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Send your thoughts to Nate at thevinylguide.com or follow or tag us on Instagram at Vinyl Guide. Until next time, keep spinning.